Welcome to Paycheck for Life, Acera's new and mid-career employee webinar. So in this webinar, we are assuming that you're either new, you're a new employee, or you're somewhere in the middle of your career. So that's why we named it that way. So the bottom line there is that you're not yet in your retirement, which is a good thing in the context of this presentation because it means you still have plenty of time to plan for your retirement. And I'm going to show you in this webinar everything that you're going to want to know about doing that. Okay. And since you're curious enough about retirement planning to watch the webinar, you probably have some questions already. Questions like, what do I need to know about my pension? Do I need to do anything? And if I need to do anything, what do I need to do? Okay. Well, we're going to illuminate the answers to all of your questions during the webinar. And I kind of have a prediction on what you're going to ask because I've been doing this for a while. So I've taken all of the topics that I think you might want to know about and arranged them in the form of this checklist. So this is what we're going to go through. These are all the topics we're going to cover during the webinar. I'm going to help you understand some retirement basics. We'll talk very briefly about pension math. It's very brief. It's just one formula, the retirement formula. And we'll talk about purchasing service credit as part of that discussion. I will help you get a pension estimate so you can look into the future and see what your future pension might pay you in retirement. I'm going to help you understand retirement eligibility. This is when you actually become eligible to retire from Acera and draw your lifetime pension. We'll talk a little bit about additional benefits, including healthcare and death benefits that Acera offers. I will help you designate your beneficiary or beneficiaries for those death benefits. We'll talk about career planning options. And what I mean by this is that at some point in the future, you're going to stop working here, whether you work a long career and go straight into retirement or whether you do something else before that and leave your job here. And then what are your options regarding your account with Acera? I will also help you make a retirement planning picture. So we'll get into the start of you doing this. I'll show you kind of the basics on how to do it. And this is looking into the future and figuring out what you can do now to get where you want to go regarding having enough retirement savings and other retirement income by the time you get there. And it's actually not that complicated. So I'll walk you through it. And as part of that discussion, we'll talk about starting a 457B account to save extra money. Okay, so we got lot to talk about. Let's jump in here on the first topic, understanding retirement basics. So let me start at the beginning of the story. Who is Acera? In one sense, Acera is this acronym. It stands for the Alameda County Employees Retirement Association. So Acera is made up of a lot of people. There's about 93 of us that work here. We're all county employees, so we are public employees like you. Acera is kind of separate from the county though, so we're kind of a separate agency. And what we do, our entire job is to provide retirement, disability, and death benefits to our members. Our members is all of you. You are part of the Who That Is Acera because you're a member of Acera, and you're a member of Acera because of the position that you work in and who you work for. So you currently work full-time, or at some point in the past you worked full-time in a retirement eligible position for one of the 6 public employers in Alameda County that use Acera to provide retirement benefits and retirement planning to their members, to their employees, okay? So if you're an employee of one of these 6 agencies and you work in that retirement eligible position, you're automatically an Acera member. You didn't really even have to do anything to become an Acera member because your membership is automatic and mandatory. As an Acera member, with every paycheck, you pay into Acera's fund, okay? So if you look at your pay stub and you go in the before tax deductions column, you'll see that there's a line that says something like retirement. The different employers have different, a little bit different pay stubs, but there will be a line there where there's some money coming out of each and every paycheck, and it is going into Acera's fund. That's your employee contribution. Every time you make an employee contribution, your employer is also contributing on your behalf, okay? So you are contributing to the fund, your employer is paying in also. That's one of your benefits is the fact that your employer pays. And we don't want that money to just sit around and collect dust, so we invest it in a diverse array of investments all over the world, and we earn a lot of interest on that money. And it's these 3 sources of income that give us this pot of money called Acera's fund. Okay, so why are we doing this? Why are we collecting all this money? Why are we trying to invest it and earn more on the money? Why do we want to run a Sarah's fund? Well, it's because you, in your job, as you work throughout your career, you are earning credit toward retirement. So the longer you work and the older you get, you're earning more and more and more credit toward retirement in kind of three categories. And I'll show you what those categories are in just a few minutes. So as you work, you earn more and more credit toward retirement. And at the time in the future that you decide that you're eligible and you decide, you stop working. You stop earning credit toward retirement, and then you retire and you start collecting that retirement in the form of this monthly retirement allowance that Acera will pay you every month for the rest of your life. You cannot outlive your retirement. You will get it each and every month for the rest of your life. It's kind of a beautiful thing. And in fact, pensions are special in this way because it is guaranteed income for life that you can plan on. So not only can you plan on uh, receiving this check from a Sarah every month for the rest of your life, but you can plan on how much that check is going to be because we give you the tools to get precision estimates. So you know ahead of time before you get there what to expect from a Sarah every month for the rest of your life. And another reason why pensions are special is that private employers don't offer this much anymore. I've never heard of a private employer offering new employees a lifetime pension of an amount that is guaranteed payout. They mostly offer 401ks, which are not guaranteed. It's based on ups and downs in the market, uh, which is the balance of your account is based on ups and downs in the market. Additionally, the final reason why, or an additional reason why pensions are special is that everything that you pay into the system throughout your entire career. So while you are working in this job, earning credit throughout your entire career, and you're paying in with every check, once you retire, we're going to give you all that money back within your first 3 to 5 retired years. So let's say that you retire at age 60 and you live to 95. Well, that's 35 years of retirement. Okay, so after that first 5 years, that extra 30 years, it's almost like this amazing bonus that you get. You get this lifetime pension, even though we already gave you back all the money that you paid in. And the reason we're able to do that is because as you are going through your career, we're investing that money and earning more and more on the investments, and it's actually the interest that pays for 3/4 of your lifetime pension. And you don't have to think about that at all. You don't have to know what we're doing over in that space. We are investing your money on a group basis, and we get access to a lot of types of investments that individual investors don't get access to. And so our investment department works very efficiently. Okay, I see a question just popped up. I'll definitely get to that in just a few minutes. Okay, let me show you this pension milestone chart. This will help provide some context for some of the different topics that we're going to talk about during the webinar. Okay, you're going to see these milestones throughout your career in regards to your Acera account, your membership with Acera. Okay, so you have your date of hire. This is your first day of work in that full-time retirement eligible position. Then for 4 of our employers, there's a 2 week lag. 2 weeks goes by, and then you enter Acera. So the first day of your second pay period is your date of entry into Acera. Now, the two exceptions are Livermore Area Recreation and Park District and the Housing Authority. There's no 2 week lag. Your date of hire into that full-time retirement eligible position is the same as your date of entry into Acera. Okay, now you're an Acera member. So you start earning credit toward retirement. Okay, one of the categories that you're earning credit toward retirement in is called service credit, and it's just basically time worked. So once you work 5 years full time, or the equivalent of 5 full-time years, you're considered vested in the retirement system. Vesting is a little bit of a loose concept. It kind of just means guaranteed. So once you're vested in the system, you start being able to access the guaranteed benefits, the vested benefits. So that's what happens at 5 years. And you'll see some of that play out as I show you some of the additional details about how the system works. Okay. So Now, some other indeterminate amount of time goes by, and it's through some combination of your years of service credit and age that you reach retirement eligibility. So, this is the first day that you could physically retire from Acera if you choose. But you don't have to retire as soon as you become eligible, and many people don't because the requirements are actually pretty easy to achieve. And I'll show you what those are in the second half of the presentation. Okay, so many people will continue working after they're eligible to retire to earn more and more credit toward retirement to maximize that retirement allowance that we're going to pay out. Okay, so the next milestone is your last day of work in this job, in your retirement eligible position. This is sometimes called your termination date, sometimes called your last day on payroll. This is the date that you stop earning credit toward retirement. And then many people will go straight into retirement, which is why I have not included a gap between these two dates. Your retirement date is your first day of retirement. This is the day that you start collecting the retirement that you've earned. Okay. Now, for some of you, and I'll show you what this will mean for you in the second half of the presentation, there might be a gap here. You might terminate your employment and then you might defer your retirement to a later date, and that's totally fine. That's an option. And I'll talk about that when we talk about career planning options. Okay. So when you retire, you start collecting that lifetime pension every month, and it stops when you die. So you collect it for the rest of your life every month. Now, there's one more milestone on the chart, and that's because at the time of retirement, you have the opportunity to choose a beneficiary for a continuance after your death. And so, in most cases, it's a lifetime continuance. So, when your beneficiary dies, that's when the monthly payments to them would stop. The continuance just means a monthly continuing payment after your death. Okay, those are the pension milestones. A couple more words about vesting. I said it comes with it kind of means guaranteed, and it happens once you achieve 5 years of service credit. The guarantee comes from state law. State law provides the guarantee. Everything that we do at Acera is done according to state law. So the way we calculate all the retirements, how we run the entire system, it's by state law, and that's where the guarantee is. State law also requires your employer to make their contribution, which they always do to Acera. And the guaranteed benefits are the monthly retirement benefit for life, annual cost of living adjustment, which is an percentage increase you get annually once you retire that tries to keep you up with inflation, and a $1,000 lump sum death benefit. There are some additional death benefits available, which I'm not going to talk about in this presentation. I will talk later about the death benefits should you die before retirement. One thing that I want to say here, you're probably seeing this term here, retirement benefit. I just want to, as an aside, just talk about this concept, this monthly retirement allowance, monthly retirement benefit. I'll probably throw around a bunch of terms. They all mean the same thing. They're all synonyms for the same idea. So I may say retirement benefit, retirement allowance, pension benefit, pension allowance. These are all synonyms for the same concept that you will get once you retire from Acera, a monthly paycheck for life for the rest of your life. So that's why we call this paycheck for life, because Acera is essentially paying you based on what you've earned a paycheck for life after you stop working. Okay, so let me tell you about your tier with Acera. You're all in one of these tiers, and it's based on when you entered Acera. Okay. So first of all, you got to figure out which timeline to look at. If you're a safety member, you're going to look at the bottom timeline. So safety members are sheriff's deputies and probation officers. And it's possible there are other sworn officers that I don't know about that are safety members. So you would be looking at this timeline. Now, if you're not a safety member, you are a general member, so you're looking at the top timeline, unless you're a general member who works for the Housing Authority or a general member who works for Livermore Area Recreation and Park District, and then you look at the timeline for your employer. Okay. So the way this works is if you enter the tier before the cutoff date, you go into the earlier tier. So if you were a general member, you entered Acera before July 1st, 1983, that would have put you in tier 1. If you entered Acera July 1st, 1983, all the way up to December 31st, 2012, that would have put you in tier 2. And if you entered Acera January 1st, 2013 and beyond, that puts you in tier 4. And that is the case with all the timelines. Now, you'll notice the Housing Authority has a different Tier 1 cutoff. LERPD does not have a Tier 2. They have a Tier 3 that they negotiated for their employees, and it has a different Tier 1 cutoff. The safety members have three different Tier 2s, and they have different cutoffs for that. And for the safety members, if you entered a Sarah October 17th, 2010 to December 31st, 2012, you had to choose between Tier 2, 2C and Tier 2D. And you had to make that choice within your first 45 days of your safety membership. Now, for everyone, if you don't, if this is confusing and you don't know what tier you're in and you just want us to tell you, it's very easy. All you do is you go out to our website, acera.org. There's a big blue login button in the upper right corner. You click login. You log into your personal account with Acera. That's our member portal that we provide to you. It's called Member Direct. And once you get in there, it will say exactly what your tier is. It will even tell you your date of entry and many other pieces of pension data for you. There was a question that had popped up. What's the difference between the regular retirement and the safety retirement? Well, the difference is that safety members, the tiers that they have and the general member tiers, the difference between all the tiers are a little bit different. The way that we calculate retirement has a few differences between it. And I think this will become illuminated when I show you the pension formula and talk about the age factor percentages and the salary components of the formula. So basically, the short answer is the way depending on which tier you're in, the way we calculate your retirement is going to be slightly different. You'll see those differences real soon. There's a question: does your tier change if you leave and come back to Alameda County? If you do not take a refund when you leave, if you don't cancel your Sarah membership and take a refund of your contribution account, when you come back in, you'll just come back in your earlier tier. Now, there are some scenarios where even if you do take a refund, you can get back in the earlier tier. And I think I don't remember them off the top of my head, but I think you'll want to explore those on our tier page. If you go to acera.org/tier, it will talk about those scenarios. Somebody's asking, what does the N/I stand for in the Plan General Tier 4? It means non-integrated into Social Security. And so I'm assuming that you might be a safety member if you have N/I. And it just means that there's this, you're not paying into Social Security, and so you're not going to get to collect Social Security benefits in the future. The Social Security system is completely separate from Acera. Now, there is this little bit of reduction that we do to it's tiny to your Acera pension. It's all automatic, and you don't even have to think about it if you are integrated in Social Security. But that's kind of a separate topic. But the N/I means not integrated into Social Security. Okay, so then there's a question. If you were a general member in tier 2 and you transferred to a safety position later, which tier would apply? Okay, so that's an interesting question. Both tiers. So if you're one of those people, and actually many safety members, perhaps the majority of safety members, will enter into safety after having done a little bit of general membership. And so we're keeping track of your service credit in two columns. You have the service credit that you entered into as a general member, that you earned as a general member, and your service credit as a safety member. And we'll actually do two separate calculations for you. One that has your numbers from your general membership, one that has your numbers from your safety membership. We'll combine the dollar amounts that come out of those calculations and pay you one pension. Okay, now there's a question. I started in 2005, worked until 2020, left in 2020, came back in 2022. Am I still in tier 2 as a general member? The way to verify that is to log into your personal account on our website. Let me show you that real fast. So if you go to acera.org, you click this login button right here, login, sign up. If you've already gotten in here, all you do is you put in your username and password, hit login, and you'll get right in. Now, if you haven't done this yet, you're going to need to click enroll, and you're also going to need to request an enrollment PIN. So you hit request an enrollment PIN, put in your info, hit request PIN. That will generate a letter on our side. And so we're going to mail you a letter in probably the next 2, 3 days through US mail. And the reason that we have to do that is we like to keep this nice and secure because, there's a lot of money and financial data in this, system. So once you request your PIN, then you would return to this login page, hit enroll again, then you can put your PIN in, put in your info, create your login and hit enroll, and then you can get in there. So if you do need to request the PIN, it'll take you a few days to get in there. But in order to verify your tier, that would be the absolute best way to do it. But having said that, if you want to contact us, you can contact us at sarah.org/contact, or you can call us at 510-628-3000. My colleagues will be able to help you identify your tier. And um, beyond that, I think what you're going to want to do to answer that question is if you go to acera.org/tier, there's some more info about um, previous work may put you in an earlier tier. And so I think you can figure out whether that previous work would put you in the earlier tier. If you did not take a refund, you're definitely going back into tier 2. And then somebody's asking, what does the INT mean? It means that you're integrated into Social Security, so you're paying into the Social Security system. One person is saying your retirement tier also shows in your pay stub. If you work for the county, it definitely shows on your pay stub. I'm not sure about the other employers, but if you are a county employee, you can see your tier on your pay stub. Okay, and I'm going to save that next question for a little bit later. Okay, so that's how the tiers work. Now, I'm going to show you this slide, and this is kind of the crux of the webinar. What I want to do is get you on track to have adequate income when you retire, okay? So I'm going to show you this slide now, and we'll revisit this later because this slide is going to provide context for the arc of our discussion. Okay, so in the future, when you go to retire, what financial planners will tell you is that the income that you are going to be receiving in retirement when you're no longer working should be at least 80% of what you're receiving while you were working. It's called, what you're targeting is 80% salary replacement. You want to replace at least 80% of your working salary with retirement income. Now, your retirement income is going to come from a few sources. It's going to come from that ACERA pension, that Paycheck for Life. It will also, if you are paying into the Social Security system, come from Social Security. And anything beyond those two categories, and you can kind of, if you have other pensions, you can kind of lump them into the first category. Anything beyond that is going to come from your own personal savings and investments. And so, what I'm going to answer for you, the question I'm going to answer for you during the presentation is how to get pointed in the trajectory of having 80% income replacement by the time you retire. So what I'll talk about right now is this is Sarah pension. I'll show you how that works. Then we'll revisit this slide in the second half of the presentation. We'll add in the Social Security and the savings and investments, and I'll show you how to use technology to get pointed in that direction. And I think you'll find that it's actually pretty easy to figure this stuff out. Okay. So, as part of the initial discussion of the ACERA pension, I want to tell you a few more details that will help you understand this number, okay? It will help you understand how we calculate this number, and it will help you maximize that ACERA pension. So the reason that I'm telling you about pension math now, even though you're a new employee or you're in your mid-career, you're not yet near retirement, you may think that you don't need to know this stuff yet. It's very, very helpful to understand this stuff right now because it will help you maximize that ACERA pension. So what I'm showing you here is actually a very simple multiplication. This is our pension formula that we use to calculate your retirement allowance once you go to retire. Now, if you're allergic to math, don't worry, I'm going to walk you through this, and this is all the math that we're doing in the presentation, okay? Just a simple multiplication. So what you're seeing here is that we have three factors that go into three multiplying factors that determine your monthly retirement allowance for life when you go to retire. Okay, now what this sentence is telling you is what this multiplication is doing. So you're going to get, when you go to retire, a percentage, this age factor percentage, you're going to get a percentage of your highest salary for each year of service that you work. Okay. Um, Let me plug in some numbers to the formula, and I think it will help illuminate this concept a little bit better. Okay, let's say when you go to retire, that the percentage of your highest salary from anywhere in your career, the percentage of your highest salary that you are going to get for each year of service that you work in this retirement eligible position, let's say it's 2%. Okay. And I'll show you more about the age factor percentages in just a minute. But for the sake of this example, let's just pick a nice round 2%. Okay. So in this example, the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get for each year of service is 2%. Okay. So let's plug in another number. Let's say in this example that you worked for exactly 20 years full time or the equivalent of full time. So maybe you worked 19 years full time and then 2 years half time. Okay. So you earned 20 years exactly of service credit with Acera. So 20 years of credit toward retirement with Acera. Okay. What that means is that you are going to get, as your monthly retirement allowance for life, you are going to get 2% of your highest salary, your highest monthly salary for each year, each individual one of those 20 years of service that you worked. Essentially, what we're doing is we're taking the 2% and we're laying it out. We're laying out 20 of them and we're adding them all up. 2% plus 2% plus 2% 20 times equals 40%. We're essentially multiplying 20 years by 2% and that gives us 40%, okay? What that means is that the percentage of your highest salary that you're going to get, your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of your highest average monthly salary. So to finish out the example, let's say that before retirement, at the highest earnings point in your career, you were earning $5,000 per month. So your employer was giving you $5,000 per month. That's your pay, okay? So that means in this example, your retirement allowance is going to be 40% of that $5,000, which is $2,000. So you can see it's actually not that complicated. What this means is that the three categories that you are earning credit toward retirement in are these three factors in the retirement formula: the age factor percentage, the years of service credit, and the salary. And because it's a multiplication, the way that you maximize your monthly retirement allowance for life is by maximizing the three numbers in the multiplication. Okay, so the higher the age factor percentage, the higher the years of service credit, the higher the salary equals a higher monthly retirement allowance for life. So the way that you maximize the age factor percentage is basically the older you are when you retire, the higher the age factor percentage is going to be. The way that you maximize the service credit is you just work longer. And by working longer, you get older, so you kind of tweak these, you kind of maximize these at the same time, the age factor percentage and the service credit. And then the way that you maximize the highest average monthly salary is the way that your salary gets larger is throughout your career. If you get cost of living increases, if you get raises, if you get promotions, if you apply for jobs in the county that have higher pay, you can even go outside of the county to other public employers in the state of California to get those jobs that have higher pay, and that's called establishing reciprocity. And I'll talk about that when we talk about career planning options. But those are kind of the ways that you maximize the highest average monthly salary in the formula. Okay. So what I want to do now is give you a few more details about each one of these three things, and that will help you understand uh, how to how we calculate this, how to maximize those numbers. You know, in a way, the bottom line here to maximize your Sarah pension is to basically work longer or seek higher pay. It's not not necessarily the easiest way to maximize your retirement income. Probably the place that you will have more levers to pull to maximize your final retirement income is going to be on the additional savings side, which we'll talk about in the second half of the presentation. But I just want to let you know now because there, if you're aware of this stuff, there are some little things that you can do to crank up these numbers. Okay. So let me check the questions real fast. Somebody's asking, do you max out years of service credit at 20 years, or was that just an example? That was just an example. Some people, they'll go 35, work 45 years. We're having somebody retire from a Sarah with, I think, over 40 years of service credit. Uh, I was just looking at some data recently. Somebody retired at over 80 years of age, and I think they earned, even more service credit than that. So the only max is, what you're physically able to do. Okay, I see there's a couple of reciprocity questions up there. There's a disability question. I'm going to save those for later. Um, there's a career planning question. I'm going to save that one for later too. Okay, so let's dig in a little more in these three factors. Okay, I gave you the example of 2%, but it's not necessarily going to be the age factor isn't necessarily going to be 2%. It's going to be based on your tier and your age at retirement. So if the question you're asking is what percentage of my highest salary will I get for each year of service, it's going to be based on your age at retirement and your tier. Here's an example of the chart that we use to figure out what percentage to plug in the formula for you, what percentage of your highest salary you're going to get for each year of service. Now, what you're going to do is just find your one column. So if you're a safety member, you find your tier over here. If you're a general member, you find your tier over here. Let's say you're a general tier 4 member, and let's say you retire at age 60. When you go to retire, we see that you're retiring at age 60, you're a general tier 4 member, and we find where those two numbers intersect, and that's the number that we plug into the formula for you. So you would get 1.80% of your highest salary for each year of service. Now you'll note the percentages get bigger the older you are when you retire. So that's why I was saying kind of one way to maximize the age factor percentage is just to retire at an older age. When you get toward retirement, there is a way to make sure that you get the next highest age factor, quarter year age factor percentage. And we talk about that in the pre-retirement webinar. You don't need to think about that right now. Uh, but just note that the older you are when you retire, the higher the age factor percentage up to a maximum for your tier. So the maximum is denoted by the blue box, and if you retire at that age or older, you would just get whatever the maximum age factor is for your tier. So, for example, this tier 2 person retiring at age 67, the age factor percentage is maxed out at 2.43% of 65. So, if they retire older than 65, they would just get the 2.43%. Additionally, one thing to note about this is that I skipped a bunch of the age increases because there's actually so many incremental increases. They increase with every quarter year that you age that they don't all fit on the slide. If you do want to see the full chart, you go out to acera.org/age. I can just show you that real fast. And you can see all the age factor percentages for every incremental increase. You'll see it they increase with every quarter year that you age based on your birth date. And then I think that's all I want to say about the age factor percentage increase. Um, oh, one thing is that these don't change. So the tier that you're in is the tier that you're in, and the age factor percentages don't change. These are written in the law. And somebody's asking why is tier 3 higher than tier 2? And that is because there was a code section for LARPD that allowed them to negotiate a higher set of percentages for their employees. Tier 4, the reason that the percentages are slightly lower is because that was by design from the state. They instituted something called PEPRA back in 2012, the Public Employees Pension Reform Act, and they instituted this slightly lower set of age factor percentages for Tier 4, and everyone who went into all of the public pensions in California as of January 1st, 2013 and beyond went into Tier 4. So that's why those are slightly lower. But you'll note that Tier 4 maxes out slightly higher than Tier 2. You just got to wait 2 years. Somebody's asking if you switch to safety after being in a different tier, does the new safety age factor percentage apply to all years or only the 8 years in the safety? It applies to only the years in the safety. So essentially, what's going to happen is when you go to retire, and you have general and safety, we'll do two of these calculations. We'll plug in, let's say that you worked in general for 5 years and you work in safety for 20 years. Well, the general tier will do the general age factor percentage based on that. The service credit for the 5 years, the salary will be the same in both calculations. Separately, we'll do the age factor percentage for your safety tier, the 20 years you earned as a safety member, the same salary in both formulas. We do the two formulas, they both spit out a dollar amount. We add them together and send you one check. Oh, this is an interesting question. If I were to move over to Livermore Area Recreation and Park District for my current job, their tier system would prevail. Hmm. I don't know the answer to that. My wild guess is that it would, but I don't take my word for it. That would definitely be a question that I would direct to my colleagues because they are the experts on the law. So, write to us, go to acera.org/contact or call us at 510 628 3000 and ask that question. That's an interesting question, though. I've never gotten that question. And then somebody's asking regarding reciprocity, and I will touch on reciprocity later. But if you have reciprocity, does the total service credit include the years from the previous employer in the calculation? It does not. They're going to do a separate. So let's say that you used to work for Marin County or Contra Costa County. They have their own. They're their own system. They do their own thing over there based on your credit over there. We do our own calculation here. The salary will be the same in both calculations, though, and it's your highest salary earned under either system. So that's one of the advantages of establishing reciprocity. Okay, so back to the age factor percentage. I gave you a lot of info about it. You know, you don't necessarily need to retain all of that info if you just remember the bottom line. The older the retirement age equals a higher age factor percentage up to the max for your tier. Okay, moving on. Let's keeping the presentation moving. So we talked about the age factor percentage. Let's talk about the service credit. You start earning service credit when you enter Acera. You earn it with every uh, pay period that you work. And in fact, we calculated it on the fraction of a pay period. Every 15 minutes you work, you earn 15 minutes of service credit. And you're going to earn service credit all the way up until your last day on payroll with your employer. Okay. And all of that time is going to go into calculating your retirement. So if you look at your service credit number in your account, you'll see it has a lot of decimal places after the whole number, and that is the whole number of years. It's measured in years, and that's us calculating and keeping track of your service credit down to the fraction of a day. You earn service credit while you work during your regular work hours, and you also earn service credit during your earned leave times, such as vacation leave, sick leave, management leave, comp time, holidays, floating holidays. Those don't count against you. When you mark those on your timesheet, you do earn service credit during that time. You do not earn service credit whenever you're out on leave without pay. You're not earning service credit. If you're not being paid a paycheck by your employer, you're not earning service credit. You also do not earn service credit if you purchase extra vacation from your employer. So let's say you earn 2 weeks of vacation and you want to purchase an additional week. A few of our employers allow that. When you mark the purchase vacation on your timesheet, you do not earn service credit during that time. You also don't earn service credit if you sell your earned vacation back to your employer. You do get extra cash, but you don't get service credit. You also do not earn service credit during overtime, on-call time, or standby time. Now, there are some types of time that are eligible for you to purchase to add to your service credit number. And the reason that you might want to do this And just keep this concept in mind, even if you don't have one of these types of time now, is you might incur one of these types of time later, is because, like I said before, the more service credit you have, the higher your retirement allowance. Now, the way to maximize your retirement allowance is maximizing those three numbers, and one of them is the service credit. So, the idea behind these is that the law did not allow for you to earn service credit during these types of time, but it does allow for you to go back and purchase them later. And these include anytime the first category is ineligible or non-covered service purchase. This is kind of time worked before you achieved your retirement eligible position. So plain old part-time work, not under contract, not through a temp agency, just part-time work for your employer is purchasable. The county's TAP time, that's their it's called their it's kind of the county's in-house temp agency. The heck does TAP stand for? Temporary Assignment Pool. All of that time is purchasable. Also, seasonal, intermittent services needed, project per diem work, all of the types of time that are designated as that work that you worked for your employer before your retirement eligible position is purchasable upon achieving your SR membership. The 2 week lag time between your hire date and entry date is purchasable. If you ever go out on unpaid medical leave for your own medical condition, not a family member's medical condition, when you return from that medical leave, you can buy that medical leave time up to 1 year per instance. State disability insurance leave, very similar. When you return from that leave, you can buy that time. Military leave during membership. This is not prior military service. This is where you are actively employed with your employer. You take leave, you go out on military leave because you're deployed in the military. You come back, you can purchase that time upon your return. Um, and I'll say one more thing about the deadline of that one in just a second. Um, the redeposit of prior memberships. This is where you used to be a member in the past. You worked for one of our 6 employers. You were an ASERA member. You earned credit toward retirement. You paid it in the system. Then you stopped working there, and when you did that, you took a refund of your contribution account. And when you did that, you canceled your ASERA membership. Then later, you come back to work for one of our six participating employers, and you become an ASERA member again. And you think, oh, I wish I hadn't have taken a refund because I would have gotten that. I would have still had that service credit. Well, you can get that service credit back, and all you got to do is redeposit that equivalent amount of money. That's called a redeposit of prior membership, and you can get that service credit back from that earlier membership. A redeposit of community property, the next bullet point. California is a community property state. So if you get divorced or you dissolve your domestic partnership, any retirement that you earned with a SARA while you were in that marriage or that state registered domestic partnership is community property, and it will often get divided. It depends on how you negotiate it in your divorce or settlement of dissolving your state registered domestic partnership. But often what will happen is a piece of your account will go to your ex-spouse or partner. And if that happens, they will basically take a portion of your service credit and an equivalent, kind of equivalent ratio of your money from your ASERA account. Now, if they take a refund of that money, we will let you know. We'll send you a letter, and then you have the opportunity to redeposit an equivalent amount of money and get that service credit back. That is called a redeposit of community property. You can't do it unless they take a refund of their account. Okay, now the final bullet point, other California prior public service. So this is where you used to work for another California public agency. There's some examples down here. For example, East Bay Mud or the Port of Oakland. And you're not eligible for their pension, usually because either you didn't work there for long enough to qualify for their pension, or when you left there, you took a refund from their pension system. Well, you can buy all that time as a SARA service credit. Now, one thing I'll say about the deadline for buying this service credit is for all of the types of time except for the military leave, the only deadline is you have to pay for the service credit before retirement if you want to have it included in your retirement calculation. The military leave during membership, it has a special deadline. You can read about that on our service credit page It has something to do with, I think, three times the amount of the time that you're trying to buy, but a maximum of 5 years to pay. And it's either or. So you would want to look into that on acera.org/service. Time that is not eligible for purchase is that vacation purchase time. If you purchase additional vacation from your employer and you go out on that purchase vacation, you don't earn service credit, you can't purchase that time back. Just straight up leave without pay that's not medical leave, you can't purchase it. Also, medical leave for a family member, like if your family member has an illness, you can't purchase that time. That's not considered purchasable medical leave for the purposes of Acera. Also, any contract or temporary agency time is not purchasable. And if you are trying to purchase this last bullet point, other California prior public service, and you still have funds on deposit with that other agency, you can't purchase that time until you take a refund of your membership from that other system. Now, having said all that on this one, if you do have enough time over at that other agency that you will one day be eligible for a pension, I think if you sit down and run the numbers, it's probably going to be most financially advantageous to you to just leave your money over there and collect the pension from that system one day. So this is mostly for people who are not eligible to collect a pension from these other systems because they didn't work there for long enough. Okay, so people will ask, how much does it cost to purchase service? Well, it was going to cost whatever your employee contribution would have been had you worked the time that you're trying to buy. So, for example, let's say that you're trying to buy 3 months of unpaid medical leave. Had you been working here for that 3 months, you would have paid into a Sarah's fund from your paycheck. We would have taken money out of your paycheck. So, whatever that amount of money would have been for you as an individual during that 3 months, that's the amount it's going to cost you to make that service credit purchase, plus the interest that that money would have earned between then and now. So if you return from your 3 months of medical leave and you immediately submit the purchase request to make the purchase, well, we wouldn't have had time to invest the money, so there's not going to be any interest on it. If you wait 5 years, we pay interest to your accounts twice a year. We have two 6 month periods, so uh, that's 5 years worth of interest, like 10 individual interest periods that you're going to have to pay because had you made that contribution, we would have invested the money and would have earned interest. So the kind of bottom line there, you don't need to really understand the nuts and bolts of that. The bottom line is that the longer you wait to purchase eligible service credit that you can purchase, the more expensive it gets. So the time to purchase service credit is as soon as you have one of these types of time to purchase. So my advice would be do not wait. Go ahead. If you have one of these types of eligible time, submit the service purchase request. So the way to do it is you go to acera.org/forms. There's a purchase request form. Um, have we done that one? Have we docu-signed that one yet? acera.org/forms. Purchase request form. We have. Click DocuSign. It'll pop open the DocuSign form. You don't even have to get a printer, scanner, pen, and ink. You just put in your info, your name, email, and then it'll take you into DocuSign, and then you can fill out the purchase request form. We receive it, we do the calculations, we send you a letter telling you how much it's going to cost, and at that point you can decide whether you want to make the purchase or not. And we'll give you a bunch of purchase options. Okay, so let me see. Let me check on. I think some questions popped up. Let me see if I answered them. Somebody's asking if I pay into Social Security, but I'm listed as Tier 4, not integrated. Is that a problem? That would definitely be a question for my colleagues. So I would recommend writing into us. If you go to acera.org/contact, you can email us. I'm not sure. I'm sorry, I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. What is the cutoff year entered in the county for Tier 2A and Tier 3? So we'll go to acera.org/tier. So let's see here. For the county for Tier 2A, the cutoff was December 31st, 2012. And for the Livermore Area Recreation Parks District, the Tier 3 cutoff was also December 31st, 2012. So somebody's asking about FMLA time. FMLA is the federal law that allows you to be out for a certain amount of time. And so it's just this kind of designation. But if you're using your leave balances and you're out on FMLA, you're already earning service credit. Like you're out on sick leave, you're already earning service credit. So you would not need to purchase it. Now, if you run out of your sick leave and then you're out on unpaid medical leave, then that unpaid medical leave becomes purchasable. Um, and you would want to purchase it because you didn't already earn service credit for it. Okay. Somebody's asking, does provisional assignment time count toward vested time, or would you need to buy that time back? As far as I know, if you're provisional, you're already in the full-time retirement eligible position and you're paying into a SARA, so you would already be earning service credit for that. I think a good way to figure that out is to log into your account and see what your date of entry is into a SARA. And if that coincides with your start of that provisional assignment, then the answer is yes, you're already earning service credit for that time. So there's a question about you worked for a temporary agency for the courts for 9 months before you were hired as permanent. My my guess is that that's not purchasable. If that was an outside employment agency and that was not an in-house court thing, um, then that's not purchasable. Okay, so you did some part-time work right before the tier 2 cutoff. And then you got into a Sarah in tier 4. So yeah, it sounds like if it's just plain old part-time work, you could buy that time, but it would not put you into tier 2. It would put you in you still stay in tier 4. So somebody's asking, I left Alameda County for some time and came back. How long would I need to work to get vested again? Well, so if you're saying you need to work to get vested again, for that, I'm assuming that that means that you took a refund and you canceled your Acera account. So you would have two options. You would need to work the 5 years to get vested again, or you could redeposit that prior membership, and then that would count toward your vesting. So all of these types of time count toward vesting. The other prior public service does not. If you didn't take a refund, though, that prior time already counts toward your vesting. And if for all of you, if you want to see how much service credit you already have in our database, you can log into your account on our website and it will tell you exactly how much service credit you have. I think I already answered that one. You cannot purchase the time used for vacation by. And then I answered that one. How do you actually make the purchase? You submit the form, and we'll send you a letter in the mail with instructions on how to make the purchase. And you can decide at that point if you want to make the purchase. Just by submitting the purchase request form, you don't have to follow through with the purchase. Somebody's asking, can you purchase service from another county if you took a refund back in 1999? Yep, that would count under this category, other California prior public service. Okay, it's a reciprocity question. Um, Salary question. Let me come back to that. Somebody's asking, is there somewhere I can see how much time I have? Yes. If you log into your account on our website, so you just go to sarah.org. You can do it from any page. You click login. So, and then you have to log into your account. If you haven't done it, you hit enroll, and then you request an enrollment PIN, and then you fill this out, request the PIN. That will generate a letter on our side. We'll send it to you in the mail in a few days, and then you can come back to this page and use that enrollment PIN here and get into your account. And you're saying I've taken sick time and it's probably too late to purchase it now. It's not too late. And the only deadline for purchasing all of the types of time except for military leave is that you just have to make the purchase before you retire. Somebody's asking what's the meaning of inside the agency, but maybe that is reference to uh, that comment I made about the courts. Somebody was asking about working for a temporary agency. I know that the county has kind of like an in-house temporary assignment pool, and that is actually purchasable time. I'm not sure if the courts do. I've never heard of that. They probably don't. And if that's the case, if they're using private employment agencies, private temporary agencies outside, then that's not purchasable. Yep, we're going to cover severing early and what it will look like. Absolutely. Okay, so somebody's asking about this vacation purchase time. If you purchase vacation, extra vacation, and let's say, okay, let's say that you earn 2 weeks of vacation per year and you purchase an additional week of vacation and you go out on a 3 week vacation. When you mark your timesheet, you're putting in that 2 weeks of earned vacation and you're putting in the week of purchase vacation. Now, the 2 weeks of earned vacation you earn service credit for. So that does not count against you. So you do earn service credit for earned vacation. Now, the purchase vacation you don't earn service credit for, you can't buy it back. What I would say though, because some people stress out about that, is that if you purchase additional vacation here and there throughout a long career, it's it's not gonna it's not going to affect your final retirement allowance that much. Um, the fraction that it would decrease your retirement allowance, let's say that you took 1 week, you purchased 1 week of vacation per year um, for your entire career. The fraction that it would decrease your retirement allowance is a 1/52nd of So it would decrease your retirement allowance by about 2%. If you did that every single year. Now, if you did it every other year, it would decrease your retirement allowance by about 1%. If you just do it here and there, it's going to decrease your retirement allowance by a few dollars. So I wouldn't stress out. I wouldn't, stress out about that. If you do purchase the additional vacation, it just means that you get to take, a little bit more vacation for your mental health while you're still employed. Okay. And that is a good thing. Somebody's asking when can I enroll? Maybe you can let me know what you're asking, what you're trying to enroll in. How long does it take to receive a purchase request response from a Sarah? It could take some months because we get a lot of them and there's kind of a queue. So if you just submitted it, it could take 2-3 months to get it back. And sorry that it takes so long. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create a calculator so that you can do some of these initial calculations yourself and it'll speed it up. Somebody's saying that over 10 years ago, vacation buy time allowed members to accrue vacation time, sick leave. Okay, I think you're getting confused about two different concepts. The vacation purchase, where you're purchasing extra vacation, that you've never earned service credit for that. I've been here for 16 years, and that was the case at the beginning, and that has always been the case. I think you're getting confused about the idea of selling vacation time back to your employer, selling your earned vacation time back to your employer for cash. That will boost in your last 3 years. It will boost your highest average monthly salary. That's not a topic that I take a deep dive into in this um, seminar, but let me just show you this the salary. Let me get to the rest of the other questions later because I think we gotta move it ahead so that we have time at the end for the rest of the planning discussion. Okay, so highest average monthly salary, the third component in the formula. Um, what are we looking at when we're calculating your highest average monthly salary? Well, our database is going to find your period of highest pay in your entire career, which is your final compensation period. That's our pension lingo for your period of highest pay in your career. If you're in tiers 1 and 3, it's your highest consecutive 26 biweekly pay periods or 12 monthly pay periods. If you're in tiers 2 and 4, it's your highest consecutive 78 biweekly or 36 monthly pay periods, depending on if you're paid biweekly or monthly. So for tiers 1 and 3, it's essentially your highest year of pay. And for tiers 2 and 4, it's essentially your highest 3 years of pay. So it's your highest consecutive pay periods from your entire career. Now, the vast majority of people, this comes at the end of your career. You're making the highest rate of pay at the end of your career. So your last year or 3 years will be your final compensation period that we use to calculate your highest average monthly salary, but not always. If you if you're making a lower rate at the end of your career, then your final compensation period will shift to an earlier period in your career. To achieve this number, to calculate this number, highest average monthly salary, all we do, this and our software does this automatically for us. It looks at your total pay during the final compensation period, either from the highest year or 3 years, and it divides simply by the number of months in that period to get an average. So we take your total pay during that highest 3 years divided by 36 months. That gives us your highest average monthly salary. And that is the number that we plug into the formula for you. Now we're talking about gross pay before any deductions, taxes, anything is taken out. It's your gross pay. And what types of pay are counted in this calculation of salary? There's 4 types. Your base pay, footnotes, also known as other pay codes. These are some other pay codes that may count. Now, I can't tell you off the top of my head whether your particular pay code counts or not because there's like 1,000 of them. But if you visit acera.org/paycodes, there is a list and it will say you can find your pay code on there and it'll say yes or no whether it counts toward calculating your highest average salary. Now, I think what you're talking about is selling vacation or cashing out vacation during that final compensation period will boost your salary by a little bit and it will increase your retirement allowance. If you want to take a deep dive into that topic, I recommend looking at the video for our, let's see, for our pre-retirement webinar. You go out to acera.org, scroll down to the bottom, webinars and seminars. For some reason, the new employee webinar isn't in there. That's weird. I have to fix that after this. But you click on pre-retirement webinar. It's a YouTube video. You hit play, and you just fast forward to when you see the slide that I was just showing you. This one. Okay, and then we take a deep dive into vacation sales and vacation cash out. So that's how that works. Okay, let's see here. Let me just talk about this and then we'll take a little break. Okay, so the last topic I want to talk about regarding the salary is that for the tier 4 members, there is a cap on dollars that we are allowed to include in the calculation for you, and it's an annual dollar amount. General members, the cap is $155,081 for 2025. For safety members, it's $186,096. What this means is that if you have a higher annual salary than that, at the point in the year where you pass this cap, We can no longer include those dollars in your eventual retirement calculation. It also means that we will stop taking money out of your paycheck for the rest of the year because we can't give you any more retirement salary credit for that. So for the rest of the year, we won't take any um, employee contributions out. And then once the year turns over, the calendar year, we'll start taking out retirement contributions again. And that will give you extra money in the last part of the year to save in your 457B account. Um, so that's just one of the caveats of the state law that was passed in 2012 that took effect in 2013 that created Tier 4. Okay, let me just answer a few questions that I saw pop up. Somebody said they tried to request a PIN on the website to um, get into the portal in their account, and it said to contact the administrator. I can think of two reasons why that would happen. One is that you're too new. So if you have started in the last maybe 7 weeks, you're probably not in the database yet because it takes a while for all of the different systems to catch up. So you will receive a letter in the mail. And once you receive the letter, a welcome letter in the mail from a Sarah, at that point it gives you instructions on it might even have the pin in it, actually, now that I think about it. Or it gives you instructions on how to request the pin. So once you get that, then you can get it. Now, if you aren't new and you're trying to request the pin and it's saying contact the administrator, usually the zip code is the problem. So you would want to think about if you haven't changed your address, you might try previous zip codes, and then it will go through. Somebody's asking, can I increase the amount of my Sarah contribution? You cannot. It's fixed and calculated by our actuary, and we collect based on what we know we need to collect to pay out benefits. Oh, you're welcome. Now, having said that, if you do have extra money and you want to put that somewhere, then you would save extra money in a 457B account, which we'll talk about in a few minutes. Somebody's asking, can I buy back the 1 week of purchased vacation to earn that credit again? You cannot. And somebody's asking, I sold vacation leave while working for a state agency after I was vested in CalPERS. Can I purchase the service leave back? If you're selling vacation time for cash, I don't think you can purchase that back. And I'm going to save the rest of the questions for a little bit later. Okay, so I just wanted to show you the whole thing put together. We have the retirement formula. The example is a tier 4 member who retires at age 65 after earning exactly 25 years of service credit. Based on them being tier 4 and retiring at age 65, we take the 2.30% age factor percentage out of the age factor chart, multiply it by their 25 years of service, multiply it by their highest average monthly salary in the example, and that gives us their monthly retirement allowance for life. Now you'll note if you multiply the age factor percentage and the years of service, you see what the salary replacement percentage is because they're getting 2.30% of their highest average salary, which is $6,000 for each one of the 25 years. So they are achieving 57.5 percent salary replacement from the Acera pension alone, which is actually really good. And I'll show you in a few minutes why that is actually a very good salary replacement amount. Let me help you get a pension estimate. Here's how you do it. You go out to acera.org. You click the login button. Once you log in, and some of you may have to, go through the enrollment process, but once you get in there, you hit estimate a benefit. Now you're going to be putting in two dates, a separation date and a payments begin date. The separation date would be your um, last day on payroll. Your payments begin date would be your first day of retirement. So what you're doing is you're thinking about a plausible retirement scenario for you that you want to get a benefit estimate for. You can do as many of these as you want. So, if you're new or you're in the middle of your career, like you probably don't know when you're going to retire, but you can get these estimates. So, like, what happens if I retire at 55? What happens if I retire at 60? What happens if I retire at 61 and a half? You just pick a series of dates that correspond to that plausible retirement scenario. You can put in beneficiary info if you want. I recommend leaving all of these boxes unchecked to get a nice conservative estimate. You hit generate, and this is just the zoom in. And what you end up with is this retirement benefit estimate PDF right here. Now it will tell you an estimated amount of your monthly pension for life for different retirement options. As a new employee or a mid-career employee, you don't really need to understand those options right now. Through going, that's something that you kind of look at when you're getting near retirement based on whatever your life scenario is and who your beneficiaries are, because it leaves different amounts to different beneficiaries. Most people choose, just to zoom in on page one here, most people choose this unmodified option. So I would just navigate by this number here while you're planning out your future retirement because it's the one that most people pick because it pays the most of all the options. So you'll note this number is the biggest. Just kind of navigate by this unmodified option for now. Um, but like I said, this is a PDF. Make as many of these as you want. It is a precision benefit estimator. It uses the pension software that we will eventually use to calculate your retirement when you go to retire. Okay, let me help you understand your retirement eligibility. We're talking about this date on the pension milestone chart. There's a combination of your years of service and age that will get you to retirement eligibility. And this is the first day that you could physically retire from Acera if you want, but you don't have to. You can keep working and earn more credit toward retirement after you become eligible. I'm going to show you the tier 1, 2, and 3 slide first. I'll show you the tier 4 slide next. Okay, if you're in tiers 1, 2, and 3, you become eligible to retire as soon as you meet one of these three combinations. There's three options for becoming eligible. Option one is you're age 50 at least, age 50 and older. You have at least 5 years of service credit, and you have at least 10 years of membership with the Sarah. But you can forget about that last part because tiers 1, 2, and 3 closed over 10 years ago. You all have more than 10 years of membership, so don't worry about that. Just look at the you're over age 50, you have at least 5 years of service credit, and you're eligible to retire. So it's not a lot that you need to be eligible to retire. Option number two is that you can have, as a general member, 30 years of service credit or more. As a safety member, 20 years or more of service credit. And you can retire at any age, even if it's younger than the age 50 that you would need for option number one. Now, if you're already age 50, all you need is the 5 years of service credit, so you don't have to worry about that. Option number three is that you can retire at age 70 with any amount of service credit, even if it's less than the 5 years you would need under option number one. So if you had 4 years, and you stop working. You could wait until you're age 70 and draw a lifetime pension at age 70 from a SARA based on that 4 years of service credit. Okay, tier four. You have two combinations that get you to retirement eligibility. Option number one is that as a general member, you are at least age 52. As a safety member, you're at least age 50, and you have at least 5 years of service credit. You can retire. Or option number two is that you can retire with less than 5 years at age 70. So any amount of service credit at age 70. Okay, let me help you understand some additional benefits that Acera offers. I'm not going to talk in depth about some of these, but I want you to just know that they exist at this point. Okay, we'll talk about a little bit about medical, dental, vision, and other non-guaranteed benefits. Somebody asked earlier about disability retirement. Disability retirement, and I'm not going to talk in detail about this, but I'll show you where to access that info on the website. Disability retirement is where is different than the regular retirement, what we call service retirement, which is you become eligible to retire through your combination of age, service credit, and or you retire through with the regular retirement formula: age, service credit, salary. Um, the disability retirement is that you become permanently disabled and you can no longer perform your job duties with your Acera employer. You can apply for disability retirement, and if you want more info, you go to acera.org, go under members, and go down to disability retirement, and there's a whole page that that details the two types of disability retirement, service connected and non-service connected, what the process is, and it will even help get you started. There's an inquiry form that you go through that will help get you started to see if you're eligible to apply for disability retirement. And if you apply for disability retirement and are awarded it, then there are some advantages, some financial advantages to being awarded that disability retirement. And then finally, the other death benefits, I will talk a little bit more about this in a minute, is death benefits. Let me tell you about the vision, medical, dental, and vision real quick. These are non-guaranteed benefits. So I told you that your pension is guaranteed. These are non-guaranteed. These are extra benefits that are offered to you because the county decided to start a reserve fund in the 80s to help you pay for these extra benefits. The reserve is administered by ACERA's Board of Retirement. They set up all the rules. Their rule list is basically based on years of ACERA service credit to qualify for these subsidies. So when you retire from ACERA and you have at least 10 years of ACERA service credit, you start qualifying for the medical subsidy, which is called the monthly medical allowance, the dental subsidy, vision subsidy, and the Medicare subsidy. And there's two higher levels of the medical subsidy if you achieve 15 or 20 years of ACERA service credit. The supplemental cost of living adjustment, you don't need any years of ACERA service credit to qualify. Everyone gets that if they lose enough buying power to inflation. But for the medical, dental, vision, and Medicare subsidies, you need that ACERA service credit to qualify. And that's why I like to, the details of what the medical, dental, and vision are going to be when you all finally retire may look a little bit different. We may finally achieve universal health care in this country. So it may, this may change, or we may not. But the plans will look a little bit different. So I don't want to go into detail about them. I just want you to know this fact for your career planning. So I like to point out that this is years of a ACERA service credit. Reciprocity doesn't count. And so for your career planning, thoughts, you may want to think about achieving at least the 10 years of a ACERA service credit, and that will give you a lot of additional money in retirement. So that's why I like to come back to the pension milestone chart and add a milestone for the healthcare subsidies at 10 years, because this is something you may want to shoot for. Let's say that you've already been around for 9.5 years and you're thinking about quitting, going and doing something else. You may want to stick it out another 6 months, get over that 10-year mark, because you would, in retirement, access the medical, dental, vision, and Medicare benefits, and that would be a lot of additional money. Somebody's asking, is there a concern for the non-guaranteed benefits being eliminated in the future? That is always, something that could happen. Um, the board of retirement, their entire goal with the reserve fund is to ensure the fund stays sustainable in perpetuity. So they make little adjustments. They have an actuary calculate the fund every year. They look at how much money is going out, how much money is coming in. They will make little adjustments here and there with the goal of ensuring the sustainability of the fund. Currently, there's over $1 billion in the fund, and the fund is considered very sustainable. If you want more information about that, there's more information about the sustainability of the fund at acera.org/SRBR, which is the name of the fund. Okay. Let me talk about death benefits and designating your beneficiary or beneficiaries for them and keeping them current. Okay, so what is a beneficiary? That's just someone who gets benefits. Your ACERA beneficiary is the person that you designate to get your ACERA death benefits after you die. So what I'm going to talk about in this webinar is what the death benefits would be should you die before retirement. Now, in the pre-retirement webinar, we talk about the death benefits that are available to you after retirement. If you want to just read about all of those combined, you can visit our death benefits page at acera.org/death, and they're all listed out there. So I'm going to tell you about, for your, career planning, life planning purposes, about the death benefits available to your beneficiary should you die before you retire. So basically, you're either dying as an active member, so you're actively you have a job with one of our employers, or as a deferred member, which means you stopped working, but you haven't retired yet. You've deferred your retirement to a later date. Okay, so Let's say that you're actively working for Acera, and you die before retirement, but you're not yet vested. What your beneficiaries would receive is a return of your contribution account. All of your employee contributions and interest that we've posted to your account, we would refund that to your beneficiary. Plus, we would pay them 1 month of your salary for each year of service that you've already worked, up to 6 months worth of salary. So if you've worked here for 3 years, for example, they would receive 3 months of your salary in addition to the refund of the contribution account. Now, if you are vested, you have gotten past the 5 year mark. And this and being vested, if you have reciprocity, that all the service credit combined among all the reciprocal systems linked together gets you over the vesting requirement. Okay, so you're considered vested. Once you're vested with that 5 years of service credit, your beneficiaries have an expanded set of options. They still have option one, but they could also, which is the same as what I was just showed you, but they could take a monthly survivor's allowance, or they could take a lump sum plus a reduced survivor's allowance. We give them this option. Now it says to qualified beneficiary only, that's spouse, state registered, or actually spouse, domestic partner, and minor child. Now, having said that, you can get rid of that qualified beneficiary thing and be able to leave a lifetime survivor's allowance to anyone simply by making the advance death benefit election with Acera. And I'll and it in order to do that, you just need to check a box on our beneficiary designation form, and I'll show it to you in just a second, okay? If you make the advanced death benefit election, you have this, your beneficiaries will have the same set of options. Option number one is that lump sum option that is a one-time payment. Option two, it does two things, this advanced death benefit election. It allows you to name any beneficiary for lifetime continuance, and it will, in most cases, in the vast majority of cases, increase the survivor's allowance. It maximizes it. So you'll be leaving more to your survivors, and you can leave it to, like I said, to any beneficiary. It doesn't have to be spouse, domestic partner, or minor child. It could be adult child. It could be niece. It could be best friend. It has to be a human. It can't be a like a charity or a trust. But you can name anyone as a beneficiary. Here's how you make the advanced death benefit election. It's very simple. If you want more info on it, you go to acera.org/ADV. It tells you all about it. If you just want to take my word for it, all you do is you go to your browser, you type in acera.org/BEN. Our beneficiary designation form will pop up. All you do is you save the form to your device, and in fact, I'll just walk you through it here. I'm going to do it. acera.org/BEN. This is our beneficiary designation form. You click download. You save the form to your device, okay? So let's pretend that I saved the form to my device and then I open it up in Acrobat Reader. You fill out the info. You fill out your beneficiary's info, who you want to leave your death benefits to. Follow all the instructions. You can name contingent beneficiaries in the case that your primary beneficiaries are not alive when you die. And it's always good to name contingent beneficiaries. You come down here to section 4, you just check this box. You move on. Once you're finished filling everything out, you print it. You will, if you have a spouse or domestic partner, you will need to have them sign this page. You sign it, and then you follow how to submit your form. You have 5 different options. There is an electronic option for submitting the form. And once you've submitted it to us, that means that you have made the advanced death benefit election by checking the box, and it will maximize the benefits to your beneficiaries. There's no downside. There's no disadvantage. Every active member of Acera should make this election. If you're new and you already filled out our Acera welcome form, you did have the opportunity on the welcome form to make that election. And if you check the box, you don't have to do anything else. If you have designated your beneficiary in the past and you don't know whether you checked the box, just submit the form again. Check the box. If you log into your account on our website, It does not yet say whether you have made that advanced death benefit election or not. We haven't made that happen yet. You can call us or write to us and we'll tell you whether you've made it. Um, but if in doubt, just submit the form again. Every time you submit the form, every new beneficiary form supersedes all of our old beneficiary forms. Let me see if I have questions about this. Is the lifetime benefit available to only one beneficiary? No, you can name multiple beneficiaries for a lifetime benefit. Do beneficiaries outside of spouse need to sign the form as well? They do not. The spousal signature, it's spouse and domestic partner. If you have a spouse or domestic partner, they need to sign because the state wants to make them aware of who you're designating as a beneficiary because they have rights over any other beneficiary. If you're not married yet but plan to before retirement, if you're not married yet, go ahead and make the advanced death benefit election and just name somebody. Like, name somebody in your life because you can name anyone. And then once you get married, all you do as soon as you get married is go to acera.org/BEN, fill out the form again, check the advanced death benefit election box, and name your spouse as the beneficiary. Okay. So that's my plug for making the advanced death benefit election. And then if you are, so those first two scenarios are if you're an active member and you die before retirement. If you're no longer active, so you quit your job or you're no longer working here and you're still an ACERA member, you did not take a refund, you're a deferred member, which means you're still an ACERA member, you're just deferring your retirement to a later date, and you die as in deferred status, your beneficiaries would just receive a return of your contributions and interest. Somebody's asking if I log into the Acera account, does it include an account summary of the Empower benefits? It does not. You need to log into the Empower Deferred Compensation 457B login separately. Okay, and then keep your beneficiary designations current. Log into your account periodically. Here's what the beneficiary screen looks like when you click on beneficiaries. Make sure these people are the right people. If you see your spouse in here from 3 spouses ago, you're going to want to go ahead and redesignate your beneficiary by going to acera.org/BEN. So, just be mindful of that as you go through your career. If you've designated a beneficiary for anything else like life insurance or for any of the county benefits or your employer's benefits, that's completely separate. You need to designate your beneficiary for your SARA benefits on our beneficiary designation form. Also, our beneficiary designation form supersedes wills or anything else. So whoever you designate as your beneficiary on our beneficiary designation form is going to be the person or persons who will receive your SARA death benefits. Okay, so let me help you understand some career planning options. And by career planning options, what I mean is that you are going to, at some point in the future, not work here anymore. Okay. What are your options regarding a SARA when you stop working here? Well, the first one, the one that a lot of people will do, is they will continue working throughout their career in their public um, position, and they will work straight into their ACERA retirement. Okay, which means that they don't really have to think about any of the other options that they might do with their account because their goal is to retire from ACERA and draw the lifetime pension. So they're just going to keep working, and then they're going to retire from ACERA. And the next day after their last day of work is going to be their first day of ACERA retirement, and then they're going to start drawing the lifetime pension immediately. So that means they're going to earn service credit right up until their retirement date. We will actually convert half of their unused sick leave to service credit. Um, those people can go work somewhere else if they want to, and we don't care. We will consider you an ACERA retiree for the rest of your life. You can go work somewhere else. You can get your ACERA pension at the same time. So you get a paycheck from wherever else you're working and you're receiving your ACERA pension. So That's a pretty good deal. You can even, and let me make sure that I'm mentioning this in the right spot. And I actually need to add this to the slide because this is brand new. You can even come back to work for a Sarah. Um, and when I say for Sarah, for one of Sarah's six participating employers. There's a way that you can do it where you're coming back as what's called a retired annuitant, which is means that you don't. Okay, let me go over to that page and just show it to you. If you go to under job and life changes, let me see here. No, it's under retirees, um, life changes after retirement, and it's working after retirement. I think you can just go to acera.org/working, and that's a shortcut. Yeah. Okay. So if you work after retirement for any employer besides one of Acera's participating employers, we don't care. You just, do that. We're going to continue to pay your retirement allowance. Um, if you are going to work for one of our participating employers, you have two options. You can return to work and you can suspend your retirement allowance. So this is a brand new option. This did not exist before this year. This is something that the county passed. He passed a code section allowing you to do this. So what would happen is you return to work, you suspend your SARE retirement allowance, and you actually earn a second retirement. You earn more service credit, and we will calculate a whole separate retirement based on this second period of work. And then when you retire from the second period, we'll do the calculation for that second period. We'll restart your other retirement, and then we'll combine them and send you one check. So that's one option. Or option two is you can return to work for one of our six employers, but continue receiving your retirement allowance. And this is called working as a retired annuitant, but you do not earn credit toward a new retirement. You just get paid from your employer. There's a lot of rules around this one, so you're going to want to read through those rules. Somebody was asking about that earlier. So the website is acera.org/working. So sorry I haven't added that to the presentation yet. Okay, now let's say that you're going to stop working here, but you're not going to retire immediately. What are your options? You kind of have three sub options. I'll label them A, B, and C. Okay. Let's say that, so here's the pension milestone chart again. Let's say that you're not going to retire immediately. So I'm going to move this termination date to a little bit earlier so that there's a gap here between when you're leaving and when you might retire. What are your three options? Okay, option A is that you can become what we call a deferred member, which is that you are deferring your retirement to a later date. You're still an ACERA member, okay? So you're leaving your contributions on deposit with ACERA. You're still an ACERA member, you're just a deferred member. Interest will continue to accumulate in your employee contribution account. There's no negative interest. And people ask me what I mean by no negative interest because that's not really a financial services term. What I mean is that the balance of your ACERA contribution account never declines. If we experience some short-term declines in ACERA's investments, like let's say that on paper we have a negative return for a particular period, we don't take any money out of your account. That's totally different than what would happen in your 401k or 457b or IRA account. If the market tanks in the short term, like in your 401k or 457b, you see your account balance decline. That never happens with your Acera account until you retire and we start using your money to pay you your retirement. But in the meantime, before your retirement, your balance never declines. So it is a completely safe place to keep your money parked, and interest will continue to accumulate. You can retire later out of deferred status. There are a lot of people that will defer because they have not yet achieved the retirement eligibility age. Like, let's say you're tier four and you're age 45 and you're kind of done. You want to go try something else. So let's say that you have at least 5 years of a Acera service credit by the time that you stop working. You can quit your job at age 45. You can become a deferred member by leaving your contributions on deposit with Acera. And you can just wait. You wait until you achieve, if you're a general member, you would have to get over age 52. If you're a safety member, you'd have to get over age 50. And once you hit that age, you can go ahead and submit the retirement application to Acera and draw the lifetime pension. So you can retire later out of deferred status, and that is a common thing that people would do. And that would be a common reason to become a deferred member is that you're not eligible when you're done working here. You could, as a deferred member, come back and work and pick up where you left off and earn more credit toward retirement. So let's say at age 45 you quit, you go work somewhere else in the private sector and you decide this isn't for me. I'm going to come back and earn more credit toward retirement with one of Acera's employers. So you come back, you get your old job back, or you get a new job working for one of our 6 employers, and we'll restart your active account. You'll start earning service credit again, and you'll start paying contributions into the system again. Because deferred members do not pay contributions, they don't earn service credit. You're just kind of on hold as a deferred member. Or you could be refunded at any time as a deferred member. Okay. So that's going to be option C, which option A is leaving your contributions on deposit. I'm going to show you option C in a few minutes. That's taking a refund of your contribution account and canceling your Sarah membership. You have that option at any time. So let's say that you're done working here, but you don't know which one of these three options you want to do yet, A, B, or C. Well, you don't have to make a decision immediately. You can become a deferred member, option A, and then later you can pick option C and take a refund if you want. And at that time, a bunch of interest will probably have accumulated in your account, so you'll have made more money. There's more info about becoming a deferred member at acera.org/defer. Somebody's asking, can you still have medical benefits if you're deferred? As long as you get over the 10-year mark, by the time you become a deferred member, once you retired, you can access those medical, dental, vision, Medicare subsidies. Somebody is interested in sitting on the seminar a second time, or will we be offering it again? We're offering it on Friday. If you go to acera.org/seminar, you can enroll in the one on Friday. We're also having two in November that are up there that you can enroll in. Can you defer to increase your age factor? Yes. As a deferred member, you don't pay into the system anymore, so we're not collecting any more contributions. Your salary isn't going up anymore because you're not getting cost of living increases or raises. You're not earning any more service credit, but the one of the three factors that does continue to increase is your age. Your age always goes up. So we will calculate your retirement if you retire out of deferred status based on your age at the time that you retire. Now, having said that, if you are deferring because you are wanting to increase your age factor and at the time your age factor percentage, but at the time you defer, you're already eligible to retire, I think you will find if you do the calculations, so you can run benefit estimates for these scenarios, I think you'll find that, yes, if you retire later, you will have a higher monthly dollar amount, but in the interim, you're missing out on monthly retirement payments. And I think you'll find that you won't catch up because the increase in the dollar amount by the time you retire won't make up for the monthly payments that you are missing. So it's probably a good idea if you're eligible to retire at the time you leave to just go ahead and retire, draw that monthly retirement allowance. And like I said, you can come back if you wanted to. Like you don't have to do this like you don't, your only option isn't to defer anymore if you're already eligible to retire because you can come back later, put your retirement on hold with a Sarah and have a second um, retirement, earn a second retirement through a Sarah. So my recommendation would be if you're already eligible to retire at the time that you're thinking about deferring, you just go ahead and retire and start drawing those monthly payments. But you can run those benefit estimates yourself. Somebody's asking, is there any difference if you have the medical retirement? I'm not sure what you mean by medical retirement. Are you talking about disability retirement? Somebody's asking how long this is training. We're going to go till noon. The 457B discussion will take over at 11:15. And I'm actually on Eastern time right now. So it's 10:51 right now, right? Yeah, it's 10:51. Okay. So let's see here. Okay, you're talking about what was the question about disability? Is there any difference if you have the disability retirement? Is there any difference in your options? So if you have, that's an interesting question. If you have the disability retirement, if you have the disability retirement, you're just retiring and drawing the monthly pension. I'm not sure that you can come back to work. That is a question for my colleagues. I'm not sure you could come back to work because with the disability retirement, you're permanently disabled and you can no longer perform your job duties. But that's a more nuanced question. I would contact us at acera.org slash contact or 510-628-3000. Okay, let's see here. Somebody's asking if you get terminated after eligibility for retirement vesting, does it impact your retirement pension? We don't, from a Sarah perspective, we don't care how your termination happens. Whether you quit, whether you get fired, whether you get laid off, it makes no difference to us. We're just looking at the numbers. And if you have already accumulated enough service credit to retire and you're already of the right age to retire, you can just go ahead and retire from a Sarah. Or if you've accumulated the amount of service credit, you're over 5 years and you get fired, you know, we don't care. You're still a vested member of Sarah. So you still have all the same, access to all the same benefits. And somebody's asking, can you pull from retirement if you come back to the county as a consultant? So I think what you're saying, let me get this right. Are you saying if you come back as a retired annuitant, so you retire from a Sarah, you start getting the retirement allowance every month, and you come back as a retired annuitant? Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We will pay you your monthly retirement allowance, and you also have a job, your job with your employer. So yes, you're not earning a new retirement. You're not earning any more credit toward retirement, but you are getting paid from a Sarah. Okay, somebody's asking, can you get lifetime payments for your beneficiary if you defer? Yes. So if you become a deferred member and you retire from a Sarah, then at the time of retirement, you can name beneficiaries for lifetime continuance payments. It's just that if you were to die as a deferred member before retirement, there would be no ability to leave continuance payments to a beneficiary. And sorry if I'm skipping around in the questions here. I'm just trying to make sure that the questions are on about the topic that we're on. Okay, yeah, and somebody's saying, confirming that if I left and didn't take anything from a Sarah, then I could come back and retire from a Sarah anytime. Yep, that's becoming a deferred member. Yep, as long as you're eligible to retire. Okay, that's option A. Option B is establishing reciprocity. Reciprocity is the linking of multiple public retirement systems together. So you're linking at least two retirement systems together, a Sarah and another retirement system. For example, Contra Costa County. If you work in both counties and you earn a retirement in both, you can link them together and establish reciprocity. We also have reciprocity with many other agencies in California. There's a full list at acera.org/reciprocity. Somebody had asked, About reciprocity for the UCRP system. What does the UCRP stand for? The UC retirement plan. I do not believe we have reciprocity with the state retirement system. Let me check the retirement page or the reciprocity page. Yeah, I think the UC system is completely different, and we do not have reciprocity with the UC system. So sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. Um, the benefits of establishing reciprocity, there's four of them. The first is that the service credit you earn in all the systems combined gets you over the vesting and retirement eligibility requirements. So let's say you work for Contra Costa County for 2 years. You come over and work for Alameda County for 3 years, and you're over age 52 and you're a general tier 4 member. You can retire because the 2 and 3 years combined gets you over the retirement eligibility requirements. You're also considered vested in both systems, even though you don't have 5 years in either. Second benefit is that the average salary that you earn under any of the reciprocal systems is used by all the systems when they go to calculate your retirement. So this is one of the ways that you can maximize the salary component of a Sarah's formula and all of the other systems you have linked together. So you could target a job outside of the county, in another county or another city that pays higher. And when we go to calculate your retirement at a Sarah, we'll use the higher salary under the next system that you go out and link together with a Sarah. And that will give you more retirement dollars from a Sarah's pension system as well. It could keep your contribution rate lower if you are in tiers one, two, and three. And it could put you in an earlier tier if you establish reciprocity because the entry date in the first system that you have linked together um, would be used to determine which tier that you go into. You can link multiple systems together as long as you do all of these things to qualify for reciprocity. You have to leave all your contributions from every system you're trying to link together on deposit with that system. So when you leave the system, you do not take a refund. There can be no more than a 6 month gap between your termination date from your first job and the start of employment in the next job. So if you were going to establish reciprocity, like in San Francisco County, for example, you would want to make sure that you start that new job within 6 months of terminating your job here in Alameda County. You also do not want to have more than 12 weeks of overlapping service. My advice is have no overlapping service. People do this when they're out on vacation leave at their first employer and they immediately start at a different job for a different agency. Just don't do that. They're going to cash you out for your vacation leave anyway, and it prevents you from not being able to establish reciprocity. And you have to retire from all the linked systems on the same day. Okay. So there's more at acera.org/reciprocity if you're curious about all the ins and outs of establishing reciprocity. If you do work for different public systems, you don't have to establish reciprocity. It's optional, and you don't have to choose immediately either. You could decide later to establish reciprocity. You would just need to do it before you retire. If you wait, there could be some contribution implications. You may have been paying too many contributions or not enough. So it probably is better to establish it ahead of time, earlier just to make sure that there isn't a problem there. Um, but those are, that would be up to you. Okay, so you have option A, deferring your retirement, becoming a deferred member. Option B, establishing reciprocity, which is essentially doing option A and B, deferring your retirement and establishing reciprocity with a different system. Option C, if for when you stop working at this job and you're not retiring yet, is to take a refund of your contribution account. So this is an option for you. If you want us to refund, if you stop working here and you want us to refund your contribution account and interest, and it's just the employee portion, not the employer, that always stays with the fund. Um, we would, and you're looking for a lump sum payment, you may lose a third of your money to taxes and penalties immediately. Now, to avoid that, you would want to roll over the funds into a pre-tax retirement account like a 457B, 403B IRA. Um, and then you wouldn't incur the taxes and penalties at that time. These can take a long time to process. It could take over 60 days. And basically, what you're saying is when you're taking a refund of your contribution accounts, you're canceling your SARA membership. You're saying, I don't want to have access to the lifetime pension. I don't want to have access to the healthcare subsidies, the death benefits. I don't want any of that stuff. I just want to take my money and go do something with it. And that's perfectly fine. That is your right to take option C. Now, let me just put in a little pitch for doing option A. Okay. Let's say becoming a deferred member. So let's say you stop working here and you're not eligible to retire yet, but you already have the 5 years. You've already worked here for 5 years. Okay. Um, and you're not eligible to retire because you're not old enough yet. So if you take option A and you become a deferred member, instead of taking a refund, and you wait until the age when you can retire, we are already going to give you a refund. It'll just come later. Okay. We're already going to give you a refund in the sense that we're going to pay you all of that money in your employee contribution account and interest in that first 3 to 5 years of pension payments. So you get it refunded. It's just not all in a lump sum. It's over a monthly, in your pension payments in the first 3 to 5 years. And then you get payments for the rest of your life, which will be on average many times what you would get by taking that refund and not drawing the lifetime pension. So I think if you sit down to do the numbers and you look at what would happen if you choose option C over option A, I think you'll find that option C does not have a lot of advantages to taking the refund. Okay, so we have just enough time to talk about making a retirement planning picture. Okay, so you are a new employee or you're a mid-career employee. Okay. And like we said before, that means that you have a little time to do a little retirement planning. That's why you're in this webinar. Okay. You want to know what the future holds. Where might my income come from when I'm in retirement? Okay. So we're going to revisit this slide. These are the three sources of income that you will have access to or could have access to in retirement. You have the SARE pension, and you can kind of lump any other pensions you might have from other agencies into this category. So this is your paycheck for life, your pension for life. You have Social Security. So if you pay into Social Security for at least 10 years, what they call 40 quarters, you will get to collect Social Security one day when you become eligible. And then anything beyond that is your own personal savings and investments. And through the combination of these three sources of income, you are going to want to target to replace at least 80% of your working salary with these three sources. Okay. So since you have a little time to do this planning, you have some space between now and when you retire, that makes it a lot easier to do this planning. You have a little time. And so what we can do instead of getting out paper and figuring out, okay, how much is my pension going to pay? How much is Social Security going to pay? Is that enough? Like, how do I know if that's going to get me to 80%? We're going to use technology. We're going to use some online pension calculators and estimators, and they will get you pointed in this trajectory of achieving at least 80% salary replacement. Okay, so first, you're going to want to use the Acera calculator and the Social Security calculator. You're going to want to get some estimates because we need to have some numbers to plug in to the calculators that we're going to use. So we want to go out and we want to get that Acera pension estimate, and we want to get a Social Security estimate. Okay, so You could get out like a sheet of scratch paper and, record what you find on the estimates. Probably the best thing to do is these will just give you PDFs. You just save the PDFs in a folder and make note of the amounts. Okay, so what you're doing is you're going to want to think of a plausible retirement scenario for you. Okay, so let's say that you're going to retire. You want to see what happens if you retire at age 60. Or, you could go earlier. Maybe start with 60, maybe start with 62. Maybe go down to 58 later and and see what happens. I'm going to do an example for age 62, which is the earliest time that you can actually collect Social Security payments. And so you're going to want to get estimates from Acera and Social Security. So the Acera estimate, as I already showed you, go up to acera.org, click the login button, log in, go to the benefit estimator, put in a separation date and payments begin date that fit your retirement scenario that you are trying to target. Okay. You hit generate. You end up with this PDF retirement benefit estimate. You're going to look at the unmodified uh, number. This is your estimated future monthly pension payment from Acera. Okay. So you make note of this. You can write that on your scratch paper. Okay, so this scenario that I'm doing, this person's estimate is saying they're going to get about $2,200 per month from Acera if they retire from Acera at age 62. Okay, then go out to Social Security. Get an estimate from Social Security. Their estimator is at ssa.gov/estimator. You log into your account over there. It's your personal account with Social Security. You ask for an estimate over there, you're going to end up with something that looks like this. They're going to give you some kind of round numbers here for round ages that you might retire at. For 62, the earliest retirement age, or if you wait till the full retirement age or at age 70, the amount would go up. I'm going to see what happens if I retire a little bit earlier at age 62. So I'm just going to make note of this number, 1700. Okay. So now I have already filled the first two blanks in to the equation. I know how much Sarah is planning on paying me when I retire from Acera. I know how much Social Security is planning on paying me when I retire from Social Security. Okay. So, what I recommend is now that you have this knowledge, go out and plug these numbers into some retirement calculators. You can Google retirement calculators, and probably like 30 of them will come up. The most effective ones will allow you to plug in pension amounts and Social Security amounts, and it will help you fill in the gap on whether you need to save additional money toward retirement now and how much you might need to save. So I'm just going to do the example of the Vanguard calculator, but we have links to all of these out on our website. Um, if you go to acera.org and you go under members, it's the third section down, planning your future retirement income. So this takes you step by step through what I'm kind of walking through with you briefly. It helps you get the Acera estimate, helps you get the Social Security estimate, gives you the link out to the calculator, and then gives you some links to some of these publicly available calculators. Now, the reason that they make these available, like Vanguard, you can see these are financial services companies. They're making these available because they want you to go, okay, I need to save an additional amount for retirement, and they want you to save it, with Vanguard, but you don't have to do that. You can just use their calculator for free. Um, you try a few different ones, so they'll give you, a slightly different number, and you can kind of average them in your mind. Probably the most powerful one that you can do is going to be the Empower Retirement Calculator for when you start a 457B account. I'm going to let the 457B expert show you how to do that. But if you start a 457B account, once you get into Empower, it has some really powerful tools to help you fill in the gap of how much additionally that you might need to save. Okay. So, I just want to show you how to do it in a few different ways. But kind of the overarching goal here is to establish whether you need to save an additional money toward retirement and how much, and to do that now so you can get started now. You already know how to do it now. You already know how much now, and so you can get started now while you have time. Okay. So I'm just gonna go out to this Vanguard calculator. I'm gonna fill in a scenario. Let's say this person is 30 years old. Let's see what happens if they want to retire at age 62. The reason I'm picking 62 is because I know that I will immediately be able to collect Social Security at that age in this scenario, but you don't have to do it that way. You just have to make a mental note. If you want to retire earlier than that, you're just going to be relying on your pension and your additional savings until you hit Social Security, and then the Social Security will get added in there. Okay. Let's say this person makes a salary of 70,000 a year. Okay. So you just plug in your numbers. This is asking how much you already save annually. I'm just going to leave that at zero for now. Let's say you save nothing annually. That's fine. And this is asking how much you've already saved. Well, let's say it's zero. You've saved nothing so far for retirement. That's totally fine. This is the point where it wants you to put in an amount, a salary replacement percentage that you want to target. Now, I'm going to use 80. This is a sort of guideline that has been in the financial industry for many years. You don't have to choose 80. You could target a different amount. Gene Hilliard, who is the 457B expert, is going to try to get you to target 100% salary replacement. So you could put in 80, 85, 90, but I'm just going to stick with 80 for right now. And then this number right here, this is kind of a loose number. What the idea here is that you have years. You have a long period of time between now and when you're going to retire. And so if you're going to save additional money, you are likely going to want to save that additional money in a place where it is invested and has the potential to earn interest. You don't just want to save it like in a checking account or something that it's not going to earn any interest. And if you take your money and place it in a place that has the potential to earn interest, there could be a little short-term risk involved. Okay. But I think you'll find that the history of the market over long periods of time, in the short term, it goes up and down, but over the long term, the market goes up. And if you annualize that number and look at through history what the tendency has been, it's probably going to be somewhere around on a very conservative level, 7 to 8%. Okay. Acera, our assumed rate of return is 7%, so I'm going to use 7%. If you want to park your money somewhere that's a little more conservative, you could, park it somewhere that might earn 6% or 5%. 4% these days is about the base. You can actually put your excess money in a high interest savings account and earn 4%. And it's not even invested, it's completely FDIC insured. But that'll change in the future. Okay, so what I'm going to do is add additional sources of income. So this is the advantage of using one of these calculators that let you put this in. Social Security estimate was about 1,700, if I recall. The Sarah pension was about 2,200. Okay, I'm gonna hit calculate. And what this graph is showing is on this side, it's estimating my retirement income when I finally go to retire. On this side, it's estimating how much it thinks I'm going to need based on me wanting to target 80% salary replacement. And you can see there's a gap here. It's saying I'm not going to get paid in retirement. I'm not going to have as much retirement income as I will possibly need. I'm not achieving 80% income replacement just from the Acera pension and the Social Security alone. So what this is telling me is yes, I will want to start saving additional money toward retirement now. But how much to save? Well, it will help me figure that out. All I need to do is go back up. I'm going to edit the results. I'm going to see what happens if I save $1,000 per year. Okay. And let me make sure those numbers are still in there. I'm going to hit calculate. Okay, so now it's adding in a little bar and it is increasing the amount of income, but it doesn't quite get me there. So my goal is to get these even. So I'm going to see what happens if I go up to 6,000 per year. Calculate. Okay, now I'm overshooting it. So let's go down to 4,000. Okay, still overshooting it by a little bit in this example. Let's try 3,750. Okay, those are about even. We'll just stick with that. So what this is telling me is that if this were my scenario, I'm going to need to start saving $3,750 per year, which is about 5% of my income. I think our 457B expert is going to try to get you to save a higher percentage of your income than that. But if you plugged in the numbers and you found this to be true, 3,700, that sounds like a lot of money. Okay. But I think if you plug that into a calculator and divide it by 26 pay periods, that's only $144 per pay period. So maybe you could find $144 worth of room in your paycheck, and you could get on the trajectory of saving 3750 per year in this example, and that would make it so that you are pointed in the trajectory of achieving 80% income replacement by the time you retire. Okay. So, like I said, the goal is to just figure out, do you need to save additional money now? And if so, how much? Approximately. Okay. These are all approximates. You know, what I suggest doing is just like getting on the trajectory of saving additional amounts in the 457B plan, or wherever you want to save it. Get on a trajectory. If you can't find that, whatever the calculator is telling you to save now, save a little bit. Like save 20 bucks. See if you could find $20 of room in your paycheck. And then see if you can maybe in a few months bump it up to 40. And then in a few months bump it up to 60. And then see if you can get up to the amount that the calculators are telling you to save now, and then you'll be on the trajectory. And what I think you'll find is that if you come back and you do this calculator again, or you use the Empower calculator if you start the 457B and you just check it every 6 months, check it every year, make sure you're still in the trajectory, readjust your savings, save a little bit more, or you can save a little bit less if you're overshooting it. I think that you'll find if you start now over long periods of time, by the time that you get to retirement, you will have achieved your income replacement goal, whether it's 80 or 85 or 90 or 100. Um, and uh, and it's not actually that complicated because you can get this little picture into the future now by getting the ACERA estimate, Social Security estimate, and then using those to determine what the amount of savings, additional savings would be that you need. Okay, so let's see here. Panelists. Okay, I see Gene is here. Um, so I think I'll probably just let the expert tell you the rest. Um, there are, basically at this point, what I'll say is, so you've gotten an estimate of your ACERA pension. You've gotten an estimate of Social Security. You used one or more of these calculators to fill in the gap to determine what the gap is and determine how much more additional to save. Now, the only question remains, where do I save my additional money? Now, you're probably, like I was saying earlier, going to want to save it in somewhere that has the opportunity to earn some interest. And I think the best place, and this is my personal opinion, the best place to save additional money toward retirement is in the 457B plan. This is a type of government account that you all have access to as government workers. It's similar to other more well-known accounts like the 401k is very well known, but the 457B is just for government workers. And what you're doing is you're going to be saving on a tax-deferred basis. So you set up an amount that comes out of your paycheck pre-tax, and it lowers your tax liability and it goes into this additional savings. So you get a multitude of advantages. Um, and you all have access to this. So what I'm going to do is uh, just mention really quickly that the rest of the information that Acera offers on this retirement planning is all included in at acera.org/planning. That is that planning page that I was showing you that had all the links. So you go to acera.org/planning, and it'll walk you through this step by step if you want to take a little time to do this. Um, and so now at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Gene Hilliard. Gene Hilliard is a representative from Alameda County's deferred compensation program. He has been hired for many years by the county to provide financial education on the 457B plan to um, all of the employees of Alameda County. But if you're not an Alameda County employee, if you're an employee of one of the other five employers, 99% of this information is still going to apply to you. So I recommend hanging around and letting Gene Hilliard tell you about how to save additional in the 457B plan. Okay. Without further ado, Gene, are you there?
I am here, Mike. Can you hear
All
me?
right. Yes, thanks for being here. Why don't
Oh,
you go ahead and share your screen? And I'll
okay,
just
you got
mention
it.
that there are a bunch of questions in the Q&A that I didn't get to yet. I'm going to go ahead and, while Gene's presenting, type out the answers to those questions that I wasn't able to get to, and then we'll both hang around after he's done. He'll probably finish by around noon, and um, and then we'll get any questions answered that we weren't able to answer yet. Okay, so. I see your presentation is up. Looks like something's loading. Okay. All right. Take it away, Gene.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Well, again, my name is Gene Hilliard. I'm Vice President Financial Advisor of Emerge Financial Group. We're a financial services company in Oakland. Um, I spend most of my time helping my clients create wealth, maintain that wealth throughout their lifetime of their kids and grandkids. I also spend a lot of my time as a retirement counselor, specifically for Alameda County to help each and every one of you maintain your current lifestyle in retirement. And what exactly does that mean? Well, as Mike mentioned earlier, my goal is to help you to get to 100% of replacement income in retirement. And I'll talk a little bit about, and Mike mentioned it as well. You know, most financial planners, retirement counselors tell you, you only need about 70 to 80, maybe 90%. But I'm big on more is better. So let's just shoot for 100. If we have to settle for 80 or 70, then so be it. Um, you guys work for an outstanding employer, one of the last of the Mohicans in terms of offering a pension. But many of you are probably tier four employees. Some of you are tier two. And you'll find that if you spend some significant amount of time with the county, your Acera benefit will be roughly, I don't know, 40, 50% of your salary. Don't quote me on that. Talk to Acera, talk to Mike a little bit more about your specific situation. But on average, you're looking at 40, 50% of your salary, sometimes 60. So you're a little bit short. And one of the best ways to take care of that shortfall to move you from 60 to 70 to possibly 90 to 100 is to use your deferred compensation program under tax code 457B. And I'm going to spend roughly 15, 20 minutes going over the plan, and then we'll answer questions towards the end. When you're pursuing retirement, it's important to kind of get an idea of exactly how much money you're going to need. And the way in which you find out how much money you're going to need, you're going to basically take some time to envision what the future holds. What do you plan on doing in retirement? Is it traveling? Is it spending time with friends? Are you splitting time between two homes? Um, are you maybe not spending as much money and just hanging out with your friends on your social calendar? What exactly are you going to be doing in retirement? So I encourage each and every one of you to think about that as you're moving along your career with Alameda County and you're also considering saving towards retirement. These are the key topics that I'm going to cover. We're going to talk about income. We're going to talk about the benefits of saving in your plan, and we're going to talk a little bit about how to sign up. So let's talk about retirement income. Here's one of my favorite slides. As I mentioned before, most financial planners say you need about between 70 to 90% of your pre-retirement income. I'm shooting for 100. Where does that income come from? Well, you're going to have Social Security, your pension through Acera. Hopefully, you're all signed up for deferred comp or will be signed up for deferred comp. So, pension and retirement plans, you're going to get income from. Income from assets. Maybe you have some investment property. And you're living off the rents. Maybe you have some investments, stock investments that are kicking off interest and dividends, et cetera. Or maybe you have money in CDs and you're going to live off the interest. Maybe some of you are going to do a little bit of work in retirement, and I'm all for that. I mean, granted, um, I object to having to work, but I have no issue with maybe spending a little extra time doing something part time that you enjoy to put a few extra bucks in your pockets. So these are the areas where you're genuinely going to get your income from. Okay, what are the benefits of the plan? It's easy. Money comes directly out of your paycheck. You never have to worry about writing a check. Say, here, Gene, put this in my deferred comp. Money comes directly out of your paycheck. Okay. Um, some of you may be thinking, well, Gene, how much, you're the expert, how much should I invest in my deferred comp program? And that all depends. Um, that's a personal decision. That's something I would suggest that you sit down and have a conversation with me, and we can figure out, how much your income you plan on receiving from possibly working, how much you're going to get from Social Security, et cetera. And then we can come up with a number to plug that gap. But I'd say for the most part, at least on average, I have found that Alameda County employees will benefit by investing at least 10% of their salary into deferred comp. Now you may be thinking, Gene, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. 10% is a big number. I can't afford to do that. And then that's fine. Start with five, start with two, start with a number, and then build on that over time. That's something that I would encourage. Some more of the highlights. If you're under 50 years of age, the IRS will allow you a maximum of 23,500 to be deposited through payroll deductions. If you're 50 and over, the IRS will grant you the opportunity to invest an additional 7,500, bringing your total to 31,000. Due to the new Secure Act 2.0, if you're 60, 61, 62, 63, at least in 2025, you can invest 11,250 extra, bringing your total to 34,750. And in some cases, if you qualify, you might be able to take advantage of the what is called the 3-year catch up. This is a way in which you can invest $47,000 a year for 3 years prior to retirement. So if some of you are interested in investing in that platform, let me know. There is a minimum age. You have to be, I believe it's at least 54 and a half to participate. So let me know, and I can jump through the necessary hoops to find out if you are eligible. Vesting, there's no vesting schedule. 100% of your money that's invested into deferred comp is all yours. So no worries about vesting. There is a vesting schedule on the Acera side, so don't get those two confused. Talk to Mike and his team about that. Investments, there's roughly 15 core investments in deferred comp that you can invest in. So if you're a socially responsible investor, there's investments for you. If you don't want to take on risk, you can invest in the Alameda County Stable Value Fund, zero risk. If you're an index fund investor, you like the Vanguards of the world, there's a few investments in deferred comp that you can take advantage of. Okay. So, but I encourage you, if you're looking to create your own investment portfolio, make sure you do your homework, log online, take a look at performance, manager tenure, fees, etc. Take a peek in there, and then act accordingly. Okay. There are three different ways in which you can contribute to deferred comp. Okay, you can invest pre-tax. You can invest in the Roth version of deferred comps, not a Roth IRA. So please don't get that confused. It's a Roth 457B. And then you can also initiate a rollover from another qualified plan into deferred comp. So Let's take a moment to talk about the pre-tax. This is the more popular version of deferred comp. This is where you're investing money before taxes. So you're reducing your taxable income. You're paying the taxes in the future. Your hope in this particular scenario is that you're in a lower tax bracket when you retire. Pre-tax version of deferred comp is also popular because all things being equal, if you typically receive a tax refund from the government every year, if you invest in deferred comp pre-tax, very good chance, no guarantee, but there's a very good chance that's going to increase your tax refund. Or if you're always on the, getting the short end of the stick in terms of owing taxes every year, investing in deferred comp pre-tax could potentially lower your tax bill. Check with your tax advisor for more details there. There's also the Roth version of deferred comp. This is where you're investing money and you're paying taxes on the front end. So you're paying taxes now. But the good news of this particular program is that when it comes time for you to retire, no taxes are going to be due. So hypothetically, say you invested $100,000 into deferred comp Roth over your career, that money's grew to a half a million. Good news for you, $400,000 is tax free to you. So that's a pretty good deal. This option, in my opinion, typically works best if you believe you're going to be in a higher tax bracket when you retire, right? You're paying the taxes now, say at a 15% tax rate. You think you're going to be in a higher tax rate in retirement that's at 35%, you avoid it altogether, okay? So, many of you probably want to know, well, Gene, which option works best for me? I encourage you schedule an appointment with me. We can have a conversation to see which option works best for you. I've also found that many people take advantage of investing in both because you can. You can invest in the pre-tax and the Roth at the same time. But please note, you cannot exceed that max I talked about earlier between the two, but you can do both. Another benefit of the program is the power of compounding, especially if you invest pre-tax. What is compounding? Say hypothetically, you're investing money into deferred comp pre-tax, you're not paying any taxes on that money. It grows, you're earning interest. The initial monies that you invested plus the earnings is making money, right? And then so on and so forth. So it compounds over possibly a 20-year period. Your money will grow much, much faster. Okay. You're in charge. What I mean by here is unlike a Sarah where you're mandated to make a specific contribution to your retirement on the Acera side, you have a little bit more control because this is not only is it a 457B, but it's a defined contribution plan, which means you have the flexibility to invest 20 bucks a pay period all the way up to the max. If you want to stop, you can stop it at any time. If you want to restart it, you can restart it at any time. If you want to increase, decrease, it's completely up to you. You're in charge. What kind of investor are you? When you're thinking about investing in deferred comp, you want to choose one, two, or three. I talked a little bit about option three, do it myself, meaning you're doing your own homework, you're choosing your own portfolio out of the core investments, 20% here, 20% there, et cetera, et cetera. And it's on you to make sure you're making the most prudent investment decision. But many of you need some help. And there's a couple of options. That's in section option two here. There's the goal maker models, and then there's Fisher personalized retirement online advice that you can take advantage of. The goal maker models, in particular, you tell the system whether you're conservative, moderate, aggressive, and then you also enter your expected retirement date, and then the goal maker models will take care of everything for you. And then there's option number one. If you want Fisher to just do the whole thing, it's going to cost you a little bit more, roughly 0.40%, But they will take some personalized information from you and then help you create a portfolio that makes sense for you and your family. And here's a little bit of an overview of GoalMaker. What you get, I talked about your investor style. Tell us your retirement age, and then the system will do the rest. This is an example of a moderate investor. As you can see, you have some stable value funds, you have some fixed income, large cap, small cap, international investments made up of that pie chart. The system also offers a rebalance feature. So, what does that mean? Hypothetically, let's say GoalMaker uh, recommended that you invest 80% of your money in the stock market, 20% in fixed income. And as many of you are aware, markets move around. Your 80-20 now turns into a 90-10. That could happen. That means your stock portion did extremely well. Well, what rebalancing does, it makes sure that your risk tolerance is always in line. So it will do the necessary buying and selling to turn that 90-10 portfolio back to 80-20. So that's rebalancing. And that's offered roughly once a quarter if you're interested. And here's uh, different examples of the different models. And I'd like to direct your attention to the light blue, which is the stable value. And this is how you can tell exactly the makeup of a portfolio. So as you can see, if you're going to retire in 16 plus years, the portion that is blue in a stable value is at a certain size. And then if you go to 11 to 15, that means you're getting closer to retirement. As you can see, that stable value portion is increasing. 6 to 10, it's increasing a little bit more. 0 to 5, it's even bigger. And what we're basically visualizing for you is that as you get closer and closer to retirement, the account gets more and more conservative because you just don't have the time on your side to recoup any losses. So we help you kind of retain the value of your portfolio as you get closer to retirement. I'm sure many of you have come from a different government agency, maybe from a different company. You have a 401k, a 403b, or even a 457 that's kind of laying dormant, maybe not earning a whole heck of a lot in terms of interest. And I just want to just bring to your attention, you have the ability to roll that money into deferred comp if you're interested. So reach out to me, schedule an appointment, and I can walk you through the steps to make that happen. Once you leave county service at any age, you have access to your money. Okay. So there's never a penalty. 401k, 403b, there are penalties for disbursements out of retirement plans, but not a 457b. So the only mandate here is that you're no longer working for Alameda County. You have access to your money penalty free. Now, you may still be on the hook for taxes, right? Because especially if you invested pre-tax, you haven't paid taxes on the money that went in. So you're going to have to pay some taxes on the money coming out. That's if you want to take a distribution once you leave county service. Okay. How do you enroll in the plans? Pretty easy. Log on to treasurer.acgov.org. Go to deferred comp enrollment form, print that. If you need some assistance completing the form, I'm here. Where people get a little tripped up is determining the investments. My suggestion would be to, on the investment piece, just choose advisor, goal maker, moderate 2040. That's a portfolio for a moderate investor, not aggressive, not conservative, somewhere in the middle that's going to retire in 2040 or later. Or just choose a model that closely is aligned to when you anticipate retiring. Some people also get a little tripped up on which option, tax advantage option, should you go with. Should you go with the pre-tax or the Roth? My suggestion for the time being, set up the pre-tax version, and then you can circle back with me later to see, all right, should we switch it to Roth? I'd say roughly 80% of the Alameda County employees would benefit investing in the pre-tax. So there's a very good chance that option is probably going to be best for you. If you're currently in the plan and you want to increase your contributions to the plan, same website, just go to payroll modification, enter the specific dollar amount or percentage that you want invested in deferred comp going forward. It's pretty easy. Okay. Make sure that if you're in the plan or when you sign up for the plan to register for the website. So website is just go to AlamedaCountyDCP.com, follow the prompts to create a user ID and password. Don't worry about this whole PIN situation. So just register. Now, if you haven't signed up for deferred comp, um, don't try to register because it won't work. So just wait until your first contribution takes place. Once that happens out of your paycheck, then you can go in and register for the website, create a user ID, and play on there. There's a bunch of videos. You can see your investments. You can do more research on the various investments that are in deferred comp. So everything is right there for you at your fingertips. And you can also uh, log on and put the app on your phone so the information is readily available to you. Okay. Let's see. Phone numbers. If you're interested in scheduling an appointment, we have 4 financial advisors that are part of the plan. Go to AlamedaCountyDCP.com. Click on go to what is it? Meet your representatives, I believe it is. So once you click there, then you'll see our pictures. There's Mark to the left, myself, Dan Robinson, and Jose. Um, you can schedule a virtual appointment. You can schedule a phone appointment. If your department is interested in one of us coming out to your group or to your department to do meetings, one-on-one meetings, or to schedule presentations, I'm certainly and we're all available for that, and we can do that in person. Okay, so just let us know. Okay, so with that, here's the telephone number 855-969-4572. So reach out to us if you want to bypass the 800 number here. Please don't hesitate. You can call my office directly at 510-562-6355, or you can email me at g underscore Hilliard, Hilliard, at emergefinancial.com. That's G underscore Hilliard at emergefinancial.com. So with that, I'd love to entertain any questions. The burning question.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Gene. That was amazing.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Mike. I appreciate it.